Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alicia. So today we're going to be doing the Finally Fall book tag. Now I know it's already fall. I'm a little bit late on this, but I still wanted to go ahead and do this tag. I think it's one that is really fun. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video. So question number one is, in fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. Ooh, there's so many good books that I can name for this. The one that I want to talk about is actually one that I just finished reading like an hour ago, and that is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. So I listened to this book as an audiobook through Libby, and I think Camilla Sten's writing is fantastic, and she does a great job at really like laying out the setting and the atmosphere so much that I felt like I can really just breathe it in. And so in the story, we follow a group of people who are doing a documentary on this lost village. So several years before, this entire town just completely vanished. Everybody in the town vanished except for two people. When people got there, there was one person who was stoned to death in the main square, and there was a newborn baby that was left in the school. And so to that day, no one had been able to solve this mystery of this town. It used to be an old mining town, and it slowly started to dwindle because the mining company went out of business, and so people lost their jobs, and there was no way in and out of the town except for this one train station. So in the present, you do have this group of people who want to figure out what happened to that town. And I do have to say that it does get spooky. Like I mentioned, the setting is really vivid, and it's one that I think is perfect for this time to pick up. The next question is, nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with heavy topics like loss or grief. So for this one, I have to go with, and bear with me, I just have to pull up the name because it's been a while since I've read it. But wow, this book, when I read it, was so beautifully written. Like, it was achingly beautiful. I just remember just crying at the end of the book because it does deal with grief and loss and finding yourself. Even though it is a young adult book, it's one that just really hit home. That is The Astonishing Color of After by Emily R.X. Pan. Like, when I'm telling you that this book is beautiful, it really is. There is no other way that I can describe it. And in this, we follow a teenager as she's trying to learn more about her mom. Her mom recently committed suicide, and so she does go back home to, I believe it's Taiwan, to learn more about that side of her family because she didn't really know much, and so she just wants to feel closer to her mom, and it's just such a beautifully written book in the best of ways. It also has a touch of magical realism, and oh, so beautiful. If you haven't read this book already, it's one that I encourage you to pick up if you do like these types of books. Next question is, fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. So for this one, I'm going to have to go with Tell Me How It Ends, an essay in 40 questions by Valeria Luiselli. So this is the first book that I read by Valeria Luiselli, and I really enjoy her writing style. So I definitely want to go ahead and pick up more books by her. But the reason that I chose this is because it's relatively short. It's just a little bit over 100 pages. So I do think that it's a book that you can pick up and finish in a day if you really have time to read. But if you're someone who can't read for long periods of time, or you just don't have enough time, I think the format of this book also lends itself to read over time. So like the title says, it is an essay, but it is divided into 40 questions, and these are the questions that are asked at the Mexican-American border when you have kids coming in from Latin America who are applying for asylum here in the US. And what I really liked about this is that I not only got a little bit more context and insight into immigration courts and how the asylum process works, but the focus of this is really on the kids and on their stories and on their journey. And I think that's something that we can all just learn a little bit more from, because a lot of times in the news, the focus isn't on the stories of the kids, it's on whether it's right or it's wrong. You know, it's about politics, and this is not about politics. This is about their stories, and I think that everybody deserves for their story to be told. So really enjoyed this one. And if you like nonfiction, if you want something short, I mean, why not give it a try? The next question is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with people we love. Name a fictional family, household, friend group that you'd like to be a part of. So for this question, I feel like there's a couple of books that I could have chosen, but I would have to go with The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. I just think that the relationship between Marimar and Rey and Rihanna here is just so funny. It's just so heartwarming. It reminds me of my family and of my brothers when we were younger. We bicker and we fight, and you know, we have the smart ass, we have the witty one, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just, there was something just so real about the family dynamics in this and how you can both agree and disagree with your family but still love them. So I just really love the family dynamics in this, and I would love to meet them and be part of their family. The next question in here is, the colorful leaves are piling on the ground. Show us a pile of fall colored spines. I was prepared for this question. So I'm very partial to the color yellow. I think mustard yellow is such a beautiful color. So I did choose yellow spined books with some white mixed in there just because I think it creates a great aesthetic. So here they are. Some have been read by me, others haven't. I will get to them. So the next question is, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. Okay, so for this one, I'm actually going to go with another current read. So I don't have my thoughts fully formed on this one. I will go ahead and update you once I'm finished reading it. But this is The Tunnel by Ernesto Sabato. This is a gothic horror book. It is a classic in Argentinian literature. So this is the type of horror that is very subtle. It's not fast paced, it's not thrilling, but we follow this man as he's telling us a story, and he's telling us the story of why he ended up killing this woman named Maria that he was in love with. And it's about obsession, it's about control. Like I mentioned, I'm only halfway through it. It's also super short. It's a 4-hour audiobook, so I think it's like under 200 pages. So this sort of reminds me of You. Now, I haven't read the book, but I've seen the Netflix series, you know, where he like gets obsessed with the woman and, you know, he stalks them and ends up killing them. So this is sort of like that. So the next question on this list is, the nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. So for this one, I feel like I need to go with Ace of Spades. So this is a young adult psychological thriller, but at the core of it, it deals with something very sinister, which is institutionalized racism and how pervasive it can be. And I definitely think that that is dark and that is creepy and that it's sinister. A lot of people like to describe this as a Get Out meets Gossip Girl, and it does definitely have that vibe at the beginning of someone sending messages to the only 2 Black students at this very elite institution, and it looks like someone is out to get them. These 2 students start to feel like they are being gaslighted. No one has their back and no one is there to help them, and things do take a sinister turn. So the next question is, the days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. I don't really read a lot of heartwarming books. Like, that's just not the books that I gravitate to. I think I mentioned earlier that I read a lot of heavy books, and then I read a lot of open-ended weird books. So heartwarming books are not necessarily books that I gravitate to. I have to look through my books that I've read. This isn't necessarily heartwarming, but I do think that it could be a really good book for fall, and this is The Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, and this is on the shorter side. I think it was like a 4-hour audiobook, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there, definitely under 200 pages. And in this one, we follow a woman named Keiko. She's been working at the same convenience store for the past 18 years, and she's genuinely happy working there. Like, she has her schedule down, she knows how she fits into the structure that is the convenience store, and she's happy with that. But you know, people start to question her, like, aren't you getting a little too old to not have any aspirations? Aren't you getting a little too old to not be married, to not have kids, etc., etc., etc.? And so you learn that she is this very eccentric woman, and she's a little bit of an outsider outside of the cog that is society. So it's a quirky, absurd read at times, but I think it's one that is very lighthearted and that has a lot of societal implications on it, but is not a heavy read. One that I really much enjoyed, and I think it might be in my top 10 of the year, maybe. We'll see. The next question is, fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. So for this question, I literally scoured my bookshelves, and I chose a bunch of books that I read at the beginning of this year. But you know, an old favorite, I really thought about how far back I wanted to go. So I went back to high school days, y'all. I went back to high school when I loved this book, and I haven't read it in like over 6 years, maybe over 7 years. It's been a while, let's just say that. So I want to revisit it. I want to see if it's still a favorite. This was a book that when I read in high school, it made me think a lot about my spirituality and about who I am as a person. And this is a weird book for someone to love in high school, but I loved it. And this is Siddhartha by Herman Hesse, or Hesse. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce their name. It's one that talks about suffering and rejection and peace and wisdom. I feel like this book is filled with tons of old school wisdom, and it's one that's relatively short. So, you know, I might go ahead and reread this in December and just find out if I still love it as much as I used to, because it is a classic and I haven't read classics in a while, so wish me luck. Second to last question. Fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. Ooh, so, I mean, one of them is right here. It's either coffee, wine, or tea. Sometimes I go ahead and pull out a beer because, I mean, I love beer, I love IPAs, and I think just having an IPA while I'm sitting by the fire, just enjoying a good book. So I used to snack when I read books, but I am a messy eater. Like, I drop food on myself all of the time. I'm saving it for later, but sometimes it falls on my books. Like, I got chocolate on my book once, so ever since then I don't really snack a lot. So an accessory for me is just like a nice warm beverage. I also have a blanket, some nice cozy fuzzy socks, and if it's really cold outside, a beanie. A must. So the last question is, spread the autumn appreciation and tag some people. So no one tagged me, but I just decided to do this video. If you're someone who's really excited to do this tag, I tag you, please go ahead and make this video. I would love to watch it. Let me know down below if you do make it. If you just want to go ahead and answer some of these questions in the comments, I would love to read some of the answers that you have down there. If you made it this far, leave an emoji of something yellow. It doesn't matter what it is, just the color yellow. I really love the color yellow for some reason. Thanks for watching. Bye!